Let us start this conversation by being thankful for INEC subscribing to the continuation of the continuous voters registration. INEC, in its quarterly and weekly update for online voters registration, reported that as of Monday, 27th of June 2022, registration stood at 2,560,043. This total figure includes application for voters transfer, request for replacement of PVC, an update for voters information record, and etc. While the total figure for both online and physical registration stood at 8,631,996. Of this breakdown, INEC revealed that 14,137,024 youth have legally participated in online voters registration, and 6,081,456 have completed their registration either in person or online. With the largest number of participation in preparedness for the 2023 general election, it is believed that Nigerian youth have been marginalized. Kalish Shatayati, in his word, says, "The power of the youth is the common wealth for the entire world. The faces of the young people are the faces of our past, our present, and our future. No segment in the society can match the power, idealism, enthusiasm, and courage of the young people." But is that the case in Nigeria? How valid is this statement in Nigeria? On this episode, we want to examine youth inclusion in Nigerian politics. And on the program today are two comrades in the Nigeria youth space. One of them is Comrade Amosu Tomi, the Vice President, Southwest National Youth Council of Nigeria, who is attending through Zoom. And I have in the studio here Comrade Soweto, who is a youth advocator and activist. And our additional Olanrewaju. The program begins in a moment. And perhaps you're just joining us. This is Politics Spotlight. And before we go on that short break, I have on the program today two comrades. Comrade Amosu Tomi is the Vice President, Southwest National Youth Council of Nigeria, is joining through Zoom. And on the program, in the studio here is Comrade Saweto Hassan. Comrade Saweto Hassan is an advocator and an activist. But let's start this conversation from Comrade Tomi Amosu. Comrade Tomi Amosu, those who were qualified, who are called youth in Nigeria, are without exception, they are angry with this country. Why are they angry? If you can hear me, your audio is muted. If you can hear me, prepare for that question. Just prepare for that question. Comment, Hassan, those who are qualified that are called youth in this country, they are angry with this country. Why are they angry?
Well, for obvious reasons. If you check the headline of major newspapers today, what do you read? You read of attacks on Kuje prison, attacks in the home of the president, Katsina State. Yesterday, if you read the papers, you read of violence someplace. You read of ASU strike. A part of the headlines today is that lecturers who have been on strike since February 14 are accusing the government of placing them on no work, no pay, which means that their salary is not being paid and they are hungry. And the resultant effect of the strike is that for the past 5 months, hundreds of thousands of students, youth, have been at home doing nothing. You know, on other levels, what do you read? What are the major issues of society? It's about poverty, it's about lack of jobs, it's about complete lack of opportunity. So you can't have this state of affairs in a country that is allegedly flowing in milk and honey, and the young people are not going to be angry. Because the youth are supposed to be the most productive section of any society. They have the agility, they have the resourcefulness, they have the education, they have the skill, they have the strength. You know, they also have the benefit of a young age, which means that, they've got their future ahead of them. So for young people, they require a society where their talent can be given full expression. So when you have a society that has the kind of human development index that Nigeria possesses, there's no way you're not going to have angry youth, but you're also going to have youth that are seeking all kinds of short-term solutions to the problem, including criminalities, yahoo, as well as other incidents of violence you have.
All right, let's take this conversation to Comrade Tomi. Comrade Tomi, Comrade Hassan here said that the Nigerian youth are angry with this country because of the level of killings, kidnapping, economic downturn, and what have you. Do you subscribe to that? Why are Nigerian youth angry at the moment?
Okay, thank you. I can good afternoon, Comrade Olanrewaju and Comrade Saweto. I greet you especially. Seriously, on the issue of the current situation of our country, you agree with me that we, the present youth of our dear nations, are faced with poverty, barriers of education, and discrimination. And if we are actually going through this will conform their attitude to what they will be doing in present country we find ourselves. One, there is no inclusion, like we're saying, there is no inclusion of youth in policy making, insecurity. And what would the youth take to? Is to take to the violence, making money through that, getting relevancy from social ills. So to me, I would say that what we are going through as a young people in Nigeria, majority of our young people engage in such because they are being marginalized.
All right.
The present.
Okay. They are being marginalized. They are angry because they are being marginalized. They are angry because they are not included in policy making. But of recent, Comrade, I'm going to put this across to you. Of recent, we discovered that there's been a surge. There's been a surge of youth participation in electoral process. Just discovered now that the level of those who have registered for INEC, that's the online registration, who have legally participated in the online voters registration, there are over 6 million. And you could confirm to us now that they are angry. What's the hype about this surge? Comrade Tomi.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, the work of the youth workers in advocating for a good governance is what that conform the attitude of Nigerians, taking the bull by the horn, by being part of it. If you are not part of it, of the system, you can't complain about it. That is the majority of us, the young people, who have actually realized the need for them to get involved, but not staying outside the politics, but being part of it. That's what that conform their ideology. They need to get involved in politics now. So that's why you see the surge of young people aspiring, contesting for that position. So you agree with me that ever since the passage of Young Not Too Young to Rule Bill in 2019, it has given room for young people to aspire for the position, elected position in Nigeria. And that is why we are taking the book by the other and encouraging our young people to, at their own level of governance, they should aspire for any political position in their locality.
Before I leave you, considering the number of those who have registered for INEC online voters registration, considering the surge at the moment in the youth industry, what is the National Youth Council of Nigeria doing to help actualize the mindset that brought about this surge from the Nigerian youth?
At every forum, we try as much as possible to educate. And the president, Ambassador Sukubu, Saraki Sukubu, have mandated at the next meeting that all local branch, youth council cut across the 7 or 7 local governments in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So we have actually mandated all the local branches, including the state chairman, that at every level they should get the young people informed the need for them to get their PVC, to get that.
All right, we're going to come back to you. We'll come back to you. Let me come back to the studio here. Comrade Hassan, how would you describe the readiness of the Nigerian youth, and if they have made up their mind on the pathway to follow, considering as we prepare for 2023 general election?
Well, let me lay a background, because I was a participant in the 2019 general elections. Okay. I was a candidate of the Socialist Party of Nigeria for Ogun State House of Assembly for constituency 2. So I can say that I have a certain experience and testimony as to the role of young people in that elections compared to now. For instance, the 2019 general election was an election that, for many young people, they didn't see it as offering anything concretely that should make them to disturb themselves to sit in the sun, either to obtain their PVC or even to vote at the election. So on that day, many young people were just playing football or so, all about, except a few young people who, maybe by virtue of party membership or some other reasons, went to the vote for vast majority. But we are seeing a surge, as you have correctly described it, in this current election. And that surge is also occurring against the background of the fact that in the off-cycle elections we have had in the past 3 years, we have seen record number of apathy, and low participation, not just of the entire voting population, but also of young people. In Anambra election, in Ekiti election, most likely in the Osun State election coming up this weekend or the next. We're also going to have something. But in terms of the 2023 general election, it appears that there is a surge. And I think that surge is motivated by one singular interest. And that is the fact that for the young people who went through the experience of the NSAS struggle, and the NSAS struggle wasn't just a movement against police brutality. It was also a movement which, at some point, began to reach political conclusions, which was that we need to end this system of iniquity. We need to end this system which continues to return the same outcome of poverty in the midst of abundance.
I'm going to ask you that question. There is this ideology that the youth are planning to retire the aged political party. What's your take on that?
That's exactly the point I'm driving at. That it appears that for young people, the 2020 general elections represent an opportunity to complete that revolt that started with the NSAS struggle in October 2020. Don't forget that the massive defeat of the PDP in 2015 general elections was based, on the revolt that occurred in January 2012 around questions of fuel subsidy and the increment of fuel price. That general strike and struggle was cut short in the middle by a labor leadership that was not prepared to go through with it. But people felt that election, which was coming next, represented an opportunity to complete that revolution. We may be experiencing something similar now, with young people wanting to use the election to retire the PDP, the APC, and all candidates and individuals that they believe are architects of Nigeria's current mystery. And that is a positive surge anyway, if that is what is happening. But what therefore remains is to now look at what options are young people going for, and whether these options actually can help, to ensure that the desire of young people for a better country, for a country that works for all, actually materializes. But this is very important, because we have had the history of Nigeria. It's not a history of young people or oppressed people not trying to make Nigeria better. We have had series of struggles. Without struggle, Nigeria would not have been what it is today. A nation that is still managing to hold itself together. Even the history of how Nigeria came into being was based on the struggle for independence. 1993 general elections also led to a major struggle to chase away the military, so that the civil rule you are talking about today is also on the basis of the sacrifices of ordinary people.
All right. Yeah. Comrade Tomi, I can see you are back. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. What is the National Youth Council of Nigeria doing to effect the chances of the Nigerian youth to determine who becomes or who leads Nigeria come 2023? What's your body, what's the Nigerian Youth Council of Nigeria doing to help the Nigerian youth to determine on who rules this country come 2023?
Okay, thank you, the host. On the issue of what is Nigeria Youth doing, I want the National Youth Council of Nigeria doing. I want to say that National Youth Council of Nigeria is apolitical, and as such, we only prepare people's mind the need to get involved in politics.
All right.
Be part of the governance. We are not campaigning for any political party. We are not campaigning for any politician. But all we do is just to sensitize them that there is need for young people to participate holistically in politics. Because one, the more we, the young people, we are a creative force in a dynamic source of innovation by contributing as a catalyst to a better Nigeria.
Okay.
So, at our own part as the National Council of Nigeria, we only set aside that they need to get a PVC and check the manifesto of every politician vying for any office in Nigeria before they decide. They should go for the money. If they bring the money, they should take the money and vote their conscience. Because this Nigeria belongs to us. They are leaving the stage soonest.
Okay.
All the political leaders are leaving the stage, and the young people are taking over in nearest future. So that is why we are telling the young people to do the needful by checking those aspiring for that position.
All right. Let me quickly throw it across to you, although your video is not seen. Apologies. I said your video is not seen, but let me put this across to you. Do you think that Nigerian youth are too poor to run for political offices? Because considering the number of those who are at the moment representing one state, constituencies or local government at the moment, the youth are on the lower percentage. Is it because, or is it as a result of their level of pause, or because they just because of this issue of marginalization we are talking about? What brought about the low participation of Nigerian youth in politics? Are you saying that, or can you subscribe to the fact that the Nigerian youth are poor to purchase political party forms or to aspire for political offices?
If I may get the question right, we are talking about why the Nigerian politics is too expensive for young people.
Okay.
Am I right?
No, the question is, would you subscribe to the fact that the Nigerian youth are too poor to run for political parties or political offices? I'm going to come back to you. Let's throw that question to Comrade Saweto. Would you say that the Nigerian youth are too poor to run for political offices?
I beg to ask or to propose a rephrasing of the question.
All right.
And I'll tell you the reason why when I've rephrased the question myself. I think the question should be that the Nigerian political parties too expensive, too exclusionary, too pro-rich for genuine young people seeking a better Nigeria to run offices, to run for political offices on their platforms. And why I rephrase that question that way is that we ourselves must not in any way concede to this very ignorant, elitist, backward notion that only those who have economic might, which in Nigeria parlance means those who have stolen Nigeria's resources, up to an extent that they have the money to do as they wish, that they're only ones who have the, who can run for political office to lead the rest of us. We must not subscribe to that. But the day we concede to that kind of elitist formula, that is the day where we hand over our destiny and our future entirely to these rogues who are in power. Because, I mean, look at what has been happening in this country. We have had many instances where political office holders, as soon as they leave power, EFCC, EFCPC unearthed loads of evidence of malfeasance and corruption against them. Two governors are presently in Kuje prison, Jolly Nyame and Dariye, both governors who were alleged to have stolen billions of naira. So what that tells you, therefore, is that those who claim that they are the ones who have the economic power to run do not actually get this money through how ordinary people like us are struggling to survive. So that what we should be campaigning for is that the qualification for political contest ought not to be based on this kind of money bag exclusionary method. And that is how not just young people, but also other segments of the oppressed population can be able to have the right and power to be able to contest for election. Because when it comes to contest, and this also determines government policy, because, and I was trying to go there the other time when I was speaking, because every time you elect a government into power, and suddenly you realize that that government fails to bring forth the kind of policy that favors the mass majority of people. Why is this? Why do this happen? If democracy is said to be the government of the people, by the people, for the people, why does it appear that those who are elected into political offices somehow are not able to bring forth policies that gels with the aspiration of the mass majority of those who supposedly elected them? It is also, the answer to it is also a byproduct of this monetization of politics that I'm trying to talk about. Because if democracy is representative, you cannot be represented by just somebody who does not, who is not in the same economic bracket, who does not feel the same issues as you, who does not go to the same market as you. So that if those who have stolen Nigeria's money are those who are elected, there is no way they can implement policies that ensures that fuel price is at the level that poor people can buy. There was a governor who said on the national television in the period of Jonathan that he can't remember the last time he drove into a petrol station to buy fuel. So you met as a president, governor of a state, or the minister of petroleum, and you are expecting that the policies would be one that ensures that me and you can buy fuel at the right time. So we need a new kind of governance that is based, on seeking the welfare of the mass majority. That's the only way we can get by in this country.
All right, thank you. Comrade Tomi, you're welcome back. The last general primary elections, a number of youth participated in House of Representatives, Senate, even President, but even governor. But it's so disappointing, however, that they could not win the party ticket. What factor is responsible for this failure?
Okay. In the last primary election of all the political parties, that the young people didn't get enough seats.
Yeah. What factors are responsible for this failure?
I'll tell you, it is the money back. Money change hands. And even that in Nigerian politics we find ourselves, you will know that it is very obvious that if you don't have that money, you can't get that seat. Until, as a young person, you have a politician, a political godfather, that give you that platform and the power of gold. Okay, go ahead. That position, if you want to get by credibility. In Nigerian political system, solely depend on money. So even if you are good in your community,
they will ask you, what do you bring for us? So the other phase of challenges we'll be facing is how to reorientate our people, that they should not go for money and check the quality of those vying for that position. Now, in the case of the last election, we have young people, even they are in opposition party, they will see that you don't have that money, you can't win that position. If you are really party, you don't have money, you can't win that position. Presently, you need to pay huge sum of money to political leaders, so your political godfathers, to pay way for you. So what we are doing now, and what we will be working on collectively, you as a journalist, and us as a youth advocate and youth developer, we need to go back to the street and reorientate the masses that there is a need for them to change the ideology of getting money to get position.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to go for a break now, and when we come back, Politics Spotlight resume. Thank you.
I'm not.
Welcome back to the program. Is still Politics Spotlight, and if you are just joining us, we are looking at youth inclusion in the Nigerian political space, and of course, it has been a drilling time between myself and two comrades. Comrade Amosu Tomi is the Vice President, Southwest National Youth Council of Nigeria. And in the studio is Comrade Saweto Hassan, is an advocate and an activist. Before we go on that short break, we were talking about disappointment that was faced or that was gotten in the last primary election. Now let's talk about, would you subscribe to the cacophony among the Nigerian, the young aspirant? The cacophony in terms of, do you think young aspirants are united?
Well, I mean, it depends on how we are looking at it. From the point of view of texting the Not Too Young to Run Act, I mean, we have seen a unanimity among young people, which manifested in 2019 general elections with a lot of young people in different areas coming out in different political parties. I also came out in the Socialist Party of Nigeria. So we have seen unanimity in that. Where people always say there has been no unanimity is maybe from the point of view of a coalition, in order to increase the chances of young people in gaining power in certain areas, especially maybe for the presidency. And for me, my approach is always to look at it ideologically. Because I do not think that the youth should seek power for the sake of just having power. You know, otherwise you'll be repeating the same cycle of underdevelopment, of poverty in the midst of abundance that the current gerontocratic leaders also have created. Because don't forget that the current old leaders actually started quite young. You know, the Buharis of this world, the Babangidas of this world were in their 20s and early 30s. Back then in the 70s and 80s when they were, you know, taking power through coup d'etat. You know, so that if the young people wants to come into politics today, I think that the objective should be, you know, to salvage the country. And what that therefore means is that the unity can only be procured on the basis of a similarity of objective. And what you have seen, even what happened in 2019 was that given the differences in the political programs of the different political parties where young people emerged, you know, it was not possible in many areas to be able to seek, you know, unanimity, because it would mean that, you know, those who do not agree on programs, you know, would have to collaborate.
I want to cut you from, you mentioned that the the past leaders in their 30s, in their 40s, in their they are leaders of this country. Yeah. The present president was 32 when he was named the head of state. Would you call this a failure, a system failure? And if yes, how can we begin to correct the system?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there are two things here. I mean, there's the question of, I mean, the fact that the current leaders took power when they were quite young. You know, there's also the question of the fact that, I mean, despite the fact that they were young when they took power, the outcome of their leadership really didn't, you know, yield anything for the vast majority of Nigerians. You know, and I think that what that demonstrates really, you know, is the fact is that the political analytical basis upon which they took power, you know, is where the problem lies. Because when you look at Nigerian society today, you know, it's not just, we have a system of governance which is called capitalism. And that system has obviously failed, you know, and that's why you see that 6 decades after independence, Nigeria I think Nigeria is moving backward instead of moving forward. So there's a failure of that system. So regardless of those you put in charge of that system, regardless of their age, you know, they are not going to be able to deliver anything different. So from that point of view, I would agree with you that yes, we have a systemic failure in our hands. But don't also forget that, and I like to always make this emphasis, that the President Buhari, when he was young in the 80s, Babangida, when he was young in the 80s, they were not the only, they were not representative of Nigerian youth as such, even though they were young. That was also the period where you have very vibrant youth movement. You know, you had the NANS, which was quite very, very active that time. The period when Buhari was the president of Nigeria, the president of NANS at that period was Olanrewaju, who is still a comrade and a socialist. He was 21 years old as a NANS president at that time. And they led major struggles, not just to defend the right of students to education and all of that, but even to, oppose certain policies of the government, including foreign policies, which they thought, were not in consonance with the interests of Nigerian people. I mean, so you have had this situation in the 80s, and it therefore tells you that, this is not the first time that Nigerian youth are rising. It's not the first time. But what we are seeing, however, is that from the 90s down to now, there has been a certain decline in the ability of young people to organize themselves. But what we have seen since 2020 is a new surge, and that is why right now it's important to see what objective we want to use this surge, to accomplish. The Buharis, the Babangida and Co, they have done their own, but then at the same time they're also quite strategic, the ruling elite. They are also taking advantage of the not too young to run ads to also begin to renew themselves, so that you add in 2019 general elections, my own kind of youth activist contesting different political parties, saying that I want to run Nigeria differently. But you also had, children of all of these political juggernauts also contesting in different areas. So in the 2020 general elections, I've seen some list of contestants for some political parties. And I've seen that they also have on their list a lot of young people. So you never can tell that in the next dispensation, for instance, that you can have an increase in young people in the National Assembly, for instance. But the question, however, would be, what do they represent? If you have a young person in PDP or APC, are they young people who represent oppressed Nigerians? Or are they younger version of Buhari, younger version of Babangida, younger version of Tinubu, that is younger version of the architect of Nigeria's mystery?
Wow. All right, let's quickly talk about the current president. When he assumed office in 2019, he made this statement, and I will quote him. He said, the youth should not contest with me, but they should wait until I left office. Now, looking at this statement, when he was signing the young and not too young to rule bill, he told them, he publicly said it on international TV that the youth should not contest with him and wait until he ended or he left office. Now, would you say that this is a testament to the hike of political party form to exclude the Nigerian youth from active political participation because the head, the arrowhead of the country has said that Nigeria you should wait until he leaves office?
Well, it's part of it. You are right. I mean, the role of money in politics in Nigeria is to keep power within a certain circle, among the elite. And we are just talking about the form, which at the level of PPC cost 100 million naira each. But if you remember what happened at the primaries, you will see that the 100 million naira was just like a small part of what the leading contenders actually spent. You know, if you check the PDP primaries or the APC primaries, for anybody who had as much as 50 to 100 votes, they must have spent nothing less than 10 billion. You know, because they also had to buy delegates. You know, in some, we even had that in the APC primary, a contender had to he bought aspirant alongside with their delegates. So he didn't just buy the delegate, he also bought the aspirant,
bought delegate.
So you are talking about the primaries of the two political parties possibly costing something in the realm of 500 billion or more than that. Nobody will give us a composite figure, but that's how much money. And to tell you that it had a big effect on the economy. At that period, the naira, naira actually fell.
Don't you think?
Don't
you think the issue of political processes, monetization will continue? Now, and don't you think if it continues, don't you think it's an avenue for the young people to work hard to get money?
I was also going to get there. I mean, and it's good that you raised that point in a very provocative manner, because that's been the conversation over the past few months. Okay, why can't young people also do that? I mean, there was even the point being made that if you look at how young people were able to raise a whole lot of money to fund the NSAS struggle, it shows that you could also raise the same amount of money for a candidate and say, let's go beat them at their game. But, I mean, we have to be sensible about what we are also doing. You know, because do we want to compete with the old people, or we want to flush all the bad eggs out of the system? And you can't, the process is also very important. You can't say you want to salvage a country and you utilize the same method. I mean, and it all goes back to what I was talking about representation. If you're a young person, if you sponsor me with 100 billion naira to go and get the ticket of APC, so you now expect that after spending 100 billion to get the ticket, running the election, and becoming president, somehow will now be thinking of using Nigeria's money to fund free education, free healthcare. All those people gather the money for me to be able to win. They are not free givers. There are people who are giving these donations, expecting that contracts will be awarded to them, expecting that they will be given ministerial slot, expecting that their interests will be taken care of, they will be expecting that the policy of the government will favor them. And that is why the powers behind governance in Nigeria, they are actually unseen. Those you see in political offices are just the servants of the real, people who are in charge of Nigeria's destiny. They are the Dangotes of this world. And that's why you see that all the time when a government brings policy, there are policies that affect the interest of small and medium-scale business people and ordinary people. But for the big guys, multinationals, they have tax breaks, they have a free trade zone, they have policies that ensures that their business thrives. Just this morning now, there was a report that 2, 3, 4 discos, have been taken over with government pumping money, ready to pump money into them. There's no point. Nobody is saying that the owners of those discos, will be arrested, because they actually obtained and bought, the Nigerian electricity company under false pretense. They collected loans from banks, which they have not paid up till now. And not between 2013 and now, they are collecting billions of naira from Nigerians as electricity tariff without you know, so the point I'm trying to make really is that we cannot change Nigeria using the same method. If young people have the resources to do all of this we are saying, the best thing would be for that resources, and then to be put into building a new political party, a mass party of the workers and young people in order to take over political power and change
Let's
Nigeria.
talk about, you talk about the issue of doing things differently at the moment. And of course, Nigerian youth has been tagged as the stomach infrastructure individual. How can, considering this surge, how can the issue of this tag given to the youth, how can this be stopped so that the youth themselves will send, of course, they send a good signal at the inside protest? How can, as young people, how can we, because I'm also young, how can we begin to correct this impression, and how can we shun the stomach infrastructure that we have been tagged?
Well, the first thing is for young people to understand that politics is not a game. Politics is not a game. Those who are in charge of our destiny, you know, who are controlling us, our destiny, they will say politics is a game, because truly it's like a casino for them, and they are cashing out. But politics is about defining the future of all of us, about whether our children go to school, about whether we achieve our potentials in life. So it is not a game, so that the choices we make are quite important. It means it will either make or mar our lives for the next 4 years. So that from that point of view, despite our poverty, despite all of what all of us are going through, I want to urge every young person out there, you know, to hold their head high with dignity and integrity, and not sell their vote, you know, and not allow themselves to be, to be hoodwinked by money in order to make political choices. I also want to urge those of them who wants to vote without, inducement, and those who do not want to vote, they also have the right not to, you know. And I think that not voting, also is a political statement, where there's no choice in an election.
All right.
But most importantly, will be that. Will be what happens after the election.
All right, as we begin to coast home, what is the place of political parties and leaders in the area of educating young people in the pre-election processes?
Well, it's a whole lot of.
Do you think they have done enough, or do you think
obviously
they have done nothing?
Obviously, they haven't done it. They haven't done anything. If they have even done anything,
should they do it?
They ought to, but fortunately, political parties in Nigeria, by virtue of how they are created and their objectives, are not entities that see these kind of things as important. You know, because an educated educated voting population, just like an educated population, is actually a threat to these people. They would like only to approach voters with money and other inducement. And that's why you see in the Ekiti election a week or 2 weeks ago, in the Osun election that is coming, what have you been saying? Branded gari and beans and all of that. Tokenism is the method through which the elite, capitalist elite in Nigeria, you know, hold the people to ransom. Weaponizing their poverty, knowing that hunger has become an important issue for many working families, and using that hunger as a weapon to compel people to not stand up politically against them in the coming election. So from that point of view, they are not, but actually political parties are supposed to be vehicles for mass political mobilization education. All right. You know, INEC ought not to be bothered about doing
INEC, NGOs.
Or NGOs. Once you're a member of a political party, you are supposed to have all of the education that you need about Nigeria's political history, you know, about political economy, about your role as a citizen of Nigeria, about how to vote, about the current laws, electoral laws, about because when INEC also introduces new procedures and in terms of the voting process, they invite political party representatives, they educate them, they inform them. With
so
the hope
they are
that
expected to go back and train the trainers.
Yes. Right. You know, but none of this, they don't do all of it, because the reality is that politics, like I said, is a game to them. It is not a serious exercise by citizens to try and make their country governable and hold political office holders accountable.
All right.
And
So
that's where
based on this that you have you've said, it seems it's a serious case. And would you call for a national youth summit before the general 2023 general election to be so that you can, at the moment or in the summit, address gray areas? Do you think there is need for national youth summit before the general election so that they can be able to determine who leads them come 2023?
Well, I mean, it's something that would be very welcomed if it's any possible, a national youth summit. But then there's the question of the representation, and then the question also of the objective. And why I say that is because the youth are not actually, the youth are an amorphous social entity, really. You know, they are further subdivided into different classes, interests, and all of that. And then when you look at the current youth organizations that you have today, you know, how really representative are they? So if you are going to have a youth summit, I would want to recommend that.
All right. Okay. So as allow you to go now, what is your final words for the Nigerian youth, and in what way can government begin to include or get youth inclusive in political processes, political party processes, governance? How can government begin to, what can government do to get youth included, or included in political processes? And what's your word of advice for the Nigerian youth?
Well, as we coastal, I mean, for the government, I mean, what we just charge the government to do is to ensure that the right of Nigerian youth, as enshrined in the Constitution, especially with regards to the new amendment, you know, via the Not Too Young to Run Act, that those rights are well respected. Money back politics, which leads to further exclusion of young people, has to be eschewed. And most importantly is that the vote you can't. But then, on the other side, especially to Nigeria's youth, I would just like to say that freedom is never freely given anywhere. I mean, so that no young person, no oppressed Nigerian should expect that those who have been behind our problems will just roll over one day and say they are done with us. We need to organize ourselves. We need to fight. We need another EndSARS. But most importantly, we need a mass workers and youth political party through which we can change Nigeria for the better.
Thank you so much. I also want to thank Comrade Amosu Tomi, who joined through Zoom. Many thanks for our comrade here too, Comrade Hassan Soweto. Thank you for coming, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
My pleasure.
And I want to thank all of you for watching this episode. Let me quickly pass across to you before I let you go that you need to go and get your PVC. And as soon as you get your PVC, you got to ready to collect what you have voted for. As you custom, until then, when I see you in the next episode, God bless you and God bless Nigeria.
Okay.
Thank you.